Hello, my friends. This video is for people who are already considering applying to Peck Academy. So if you're earlier in the process, this probably will not be the best video for you, and you can hop over to our How to Become an Instructional Designer video. But if this does sound like you and you are considering applying, my goal here is not to convince you to join the program. It's to hopefully give you some clarity and help you decide whether or not this program is the right fit for you. So everything I am about to share with you is from the patterns I've been seeing in recent years from working very closely with hundreds of people making this transition, and I have some good stuff to share with you here. So we're going to take a look at what has changed in the field in recent years, who Peck Academy actually makes sense for, and how to decide if this is the right program for you. So let's start with the oversaturated myth. So when people say that a field is oversaturated, they're usually talking about the number of candidates applying to roles or trying to find jobs. But capability is very often ignored in these discussions. So it is true. There are more applicants and more portfolios than there were in years past, especially back in 2019, 2020. But there is not an excess of high quality work. So the market is not saturated with exceptional or very strong instructional designers. It's saturated with similar ones. And most candidates cluster in what I call the boring middle, right? So this is where a lot of the median candidate, right? This big group of people who are applying to roles, a lot of their skills and portfolios look the same, and it can make them almost invisible to hiring managers. So I think in 2026 and beyond, a big goal for people applying is to get out of that boring middle, as I call it. And what has actually changed in the field? One, hiring expectations rose. Tool proficiency is now the baseline, and evaluation signals have changed. So we're going to take a look at each of these in more detail. So because there's more competition or more people applying to roles, naturally there's a higher bar for the roles that do exist. And there are plenty of roles out there, but again, that bar is higher for almost all of them. There are also fewer learn-on-the-job roles. So back in 2019, 2020, people were getting hired for potential, right? If people had the right attitude and the right passion and the right drive and signals, they could land a role just because of that potential. That is much rarer today. Hiring managers want stronger evidence of skill and decision-making up front. So there's a lot more pressure on applicants to be adding value day one as soon as they get hired, not so much a 6-12 month ramp up period to actually be useful. So showing that evidence of your skill and your decision-making ability, that goes a lot further in the job market today. Tools are now the baseline as well. Tool fluency is assumed at this point, right? Storyline 360, using a learning management system, using AI tools to speed up your workflow. These are essentially the bare minimum these days if you're looking for most corporate instructional design roles. And output alone no longer differentiates. So showing off a Storyline 360 course in your portfolio that shows that you can use triggers and, create a functional e-learning experience, that doesn't differentiate you from other candidates in 2026 and beyond. And reasoning matters more than technical execution. That's a big trend that we're seeing, showing that you could actually justify your design decisions and justify the reason why that e-learning experience exists in the first place is just as important, if not more important, going forward. And the evaluation signals have changed. More candidates are presenting portfolios. Again, that's almost a baseline. Almost everyone who's applying for roles does have a portfolio at this point, and traditional portfolio projects lost signaling power. So again, these traditional information-focused e-learning experiences that, have quizzes and you can click and they do what they're supposed to do, that doesn't signal to hiring managers that you can do the job exceptionally well. It signals that you can do the bare minimum. So judgment and decision-making matter more than the projects themselves in 2026 and beyond. Now, where is all of that evaluated? That's evaluated on the portfolio. And we're seeing that average portfolios no longer work. So most portfolios show what was built. They let you experience the project for yourself. Far fewer show why the decisions were made. And almost no portfolios show the trade-offs, constraints, or iteration that went into bringing that project to life. So competence is no longer the differentiator, it is the entry requirement. And as you can imagine, showing off how you work with those trade-offs, constraints, and how you iterate, that makes your portfolio go much further than the average portfolios that aren't really helping people land work this year. And here are the new big three things that we're looking at. Judgment. So how are you framing the problems that you're solving? Are you explaining your decisions clearly? That demonstrates judgment. Iteration. How quickly can you incorporate feedback? How willing are you to revise your project? And are you open to learning through doing, not spending a ton of time planning? All right, that's a very powerful signal in the job market today. And ambiguity tolerance, working without perfect requirements, asking better questions, and moving forward without certainty. That's how a lot of L&D teams are working today. We do need to move forward without knowing every last detail. And if you can demonstrate that in your portfolio, it is going to be a very powerful hiring signal. And the big picture, how do these big three relate to the big picture? When you see the big picture like this, the question isn't, will there be an opportunity for me? It's, where do I build the capabilities that will help me get hired today? And that's the framing that I think is important when approaching the instructional design job market. There are plenty of roles out there, right? There are opportunities, but where do you build the actual capabilities to help you get there? And there's a bit of a problem, right? There are endless tutorials on YouTube, online, on how to use the tools. There are plenty of guides on how to create portfolios. And there are hiring manager surveys that tell us exactly what those hiring managers are looking for, right? But this stuff has been out there for years now. The problem is that most people haven't had a place to practice judgment under real constraints, right? They have a place to learn the tools, to learn exactly what hiring managers want, but they don't have the environment in place to actually practice making that judgment in the same way they would need to on the job. So we want to build that capability. What do I even mean by that though? So in modern instructional design, I would say that capability means looking at an unclear situation, asking the right questions, making defensible decisions, and explaining why you made them. That is the core skill that hiring managers are looking for going forward. And here are the capability shifts required to get to that point. So the first is thinking in business constraints. The second is translating messy problems into defensible solutions. The third is communicating reasoning, not just outputs. And the fourth is using AI to accelerate thinking. This series of shifts is what will bring someone from an instructional designer who is competitive in 2019 or 2020 to someone who is competitive in 2026 and beyond. So let's dive into each of them. The first, thinking in business constraints. Real instructional design work does not start with clean objectives and unlimited time. It starts with real constraints, right? Budget constraints, stakeholders, ambiguity, trade-offs that need to be made, and the list goes on. Most portfolios never show how someone thinks inside those constraints to identify and achieve business goals. If you can do that, it is gold in modern instructional design. Moving from translating messy problems into solutions. In practice, the hardest part of the job is not building the thing, right? It's not building the e-learning course and storyline. It's working with messy data, deciding what to build, and justifying that decision with real data. And that's what hiring managers are actually trying to assess when they're looking at your portfolio in this day and age. And then communicating your reasoning instead of just showing outputs. When hiring managers review portfolios, they're trying to reverse engineer how the applicant thinks. And most portfolios make this impossible. And finally, using AI to accelerate thinking. People using AI well are iterating faster, testing their judgments, and refining decisions, all with AI. So not so much about generating assets, generating a photo. It's about using it to think faster and work more efficiently. So when used in this way, AI makes your reasoning more visible, not less visible. So the goal here isn't just creating more content, it's actually refining your judgment, making better judgments, and doing it sooner than if you were just relying on your own brain instead of using AI to help accelerate it. So because of this, hiring managers are increasingly noticing how AI is being used, not whether it's used, because again, that's a bit of it's assumed at this point that instructional designers are using AI in 2026 and beyond. So where does Peck Academy fit into all of this? Everything I just shared with you is why Peck Academy is not a content creation program. Right? We can make the best program in the world around how to churn out e-learning, and it would not help people get hired very well in this job market. That's why Peck Academy today is a decision-making program. So if you are looking for more tools, templates, tutorials by themselves, Peck Academy is not the right program for you. And yes, we teach the tools, we offer templates, but it's all in the name of helping you make better decisions, not learn them just for the sake of learning them. And so if you do want to build the kind of judgment that this market is selecting for, that's what this program is built around. So who succeeds in Peck Academy? When people come to me and ask me if I think they'll succeed, they usually talk about their background, right? The tech skill that they currently have, how old they are, and those are not the pieces that determine outcomes. There are 4 clear patterns I've found in recent years that do predict success. So let's take a look at each of them. The first is that people who succeed use structure and support to maintain momentum. They show up to the workshops and apply the feedback. And that's essentially it, right? If you're wanting to work through something alone and, head down, focus on your work, get through it all, this probably is not the best program for you, because we would want you to engage with that structure and support to actually achieve the desired outcome. People who succeed are willing to work through ambiguity. They don't need every step defined up front, and they refine as they go. There are a lot of steps involved in this process, and this process is built around iteration. Third, they are comfortable being visibly wrong early. This is an important one. They share unfinished work and treat feedback as data, right? A common phrase I've said throughout the years is feedback is love. I really resonate with that, and that is the people who have that mindset and are looking for the feedback and receive it well, those people do much better. And they stay engaged over time, so they participate consistently. Steady progress is better than bursts of intensity. So who should not apply, right? I want to be just as clear about who this program is not a good fit for. I'm not saying these people can't succeed, just that this would not be the right environment to make that transition. So if you're looking for progress without active participation, then you're not going to make it very far in Peck Academy. So we do provide structure, guidance, feedback, regular touch points, progress reports, but it requires you to actually engage with them. So the support is designed to help you move, not move for you. So just recognizing that it is going to take a lot of active participation and effort to succeed in an environment like this. If you need certainty before starting, then this process will feel quite uncomfortable. So most meaningful career transitions involve starting before everything feels clear or certain, and that's normal. We are aiming for clarity, not certainty. So clarity about the outcome you're trying to achieve, not certainty about exactly what you need to do to get there. All right, it will be a journey. If you're looking for motivation or reassurance primarily, if that's the number one thing that you need is that motivating piece, or just being told, hey, you're on the right track, there are better places to get that. So this environment is much more focused on feedback, iteration, and improvement. It can feel demanding at times. So sometimes it will not feel good because, right, we're going to say, hey, revise this again. So we will, of course, help you feel motivated. We will, of course, reassure you along the way, but this is not primarily like a feel good, you're doing your best type of thing. We will focus heavily on that iteration and improvement piece to help you move forward. And if you're unwilling to share or revise work before it's finished, this process will be extremely uncomfortable. So iteration means sharing work before it's final and being open to revising it. I would say this is the biggest one, where if you're not willing to do this, this is definitely not the right program for you. There will be plenty of iteration in this program. So if that feels threatening, this process will feel very, very frustrating for you. And if you're not ready to stay engaged over time, then this probably isn't the right moment. It doesn't mean it will never be the right fit for you, but success in the program does require you to show up consistently and make progress every week. Some people do 30 minutes to an hour a day. Some people block out a couple days a week. And of course, life happens. Sometimes people need to step away for a month or months because of stuff that happens in their family or with their health. But as long as there's nothing catastrophic and you do have the bandwidth to commit over a period of months, that's great. If you do not have that bandwidth, this is not the right moment. And if any of this made you think that doesn't sound like me right now, that is completely okay. So that is a successful outcome of this video. Again, I want to make sure that we are aligned on both sides. Clarity now is better than frustration later on either of our parts. So if this did help you decide it's not a good fit for you, that is a win. So what are the real risks? So the risk at this point isn't, does Peck Academy work? But there are some real risks to your progress in the program. So the first is time commitment, right? This does require commitment over a period of months, not over a period of weeks. So it does take real consistent effort. The second is emotional discomfort. There will be times where it feels uncertain or where it feels overwhelming or where it feels like you might be getting left behind. And that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. That is just part of the process. And working through that emotional discomfort just goes to show that you are growing and becoming more confident in this field. And the other risk is the reality that outcomes depend on execution. Again, if you are not consistently showing up, if you aren't able to actually execute and take advantage of the structure and support available to you, there is a real risk that you will not see the outcomes that you are trying to achieve. So those are the risks that we are trying to control for. And let's talk about the Peck Academy promise. This is our 100% refund if you don't land a role within 6 months of graduation. This exists to limit your downside, right? To reduce the risk for you a little bit. This is not a guarantee. Okay, so if the only reason you want to join this program is because you like this Peck Academy promise and you're thinking, hey, yeah, if I join and I don't have a job in 6 months, I got all my money back, right? I'm going to get hired in 6 months. You should not join this program. Okay, so this should not be the reason you apply. We put this in place to show you that we are just as invested financially in your success, and that to back up our confidence that if you can follow this process and execute with our help, you will be able to find a role. And if not, our money's where our mouth is, we'll pay you back. But again, this is not a guarantee that in 6 months you'll be hired as soon as you join the program. It will require you to put in that work. And again, maybe a place to pause if you're like, this is the main reason I want to apply. So here's how I would decide. So ask yourself these questions. First, does this feel like clarity or does it feel like pressure? Are you more interested in doing the work or being done with a decision? And finally, would you still want this if it took longer than you hope? So those are the main 3 questions I would ask, right? See how each of those sits with you, and hopefully that will help give you some clarity on whether or not this is the right choice for you right now. And if it is the right choice for you, applications are currently open for our first cohort of 2026, and priority applications close on January 26th. So the cohort officially starts on February 2nd. Applications will close a few days before that. If this felt clear and this resonates with you, the next step is to apply. Or if you still want some more information, you can attend the tour on January 2nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I'll share these links beneath this video. And if this did not resonate with you, that is useful information as well. Hopefully, again, this video is able to give you some clarity, because clarity now is better than frustration later. That is the goal. So thank you for making it to the end of this video. If you decided that this was right for you, I look forward to seeing you at the tour or in the program, and I will see you all in the next video.